The content of the webinar obviously will be looking at the 5 challenges. We've also got a bonus one towards the end, and obviously a bit of a Q&A at the end to ask any of us some questions. So we'll leave some good time for that, so you can get your questions into the panel.
I just did a quick calculation before we started on how long I've worked in recruitment marketing, and it was quite depressing.
How long?
14 years.
Wow.
Baby. You're a baby, Kieran.
What about you,
How long are you, Glenn?
Nearly 19.
Touching the 20-year mark. Brilliant.
You're already an adult.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's very close now to literally half of my life. Another year or so, yeah, it'll be literally half of my life.
Nice. We've got the perfect minds and knowledge to be on the panel then, with the combined years there of experience.
Classic. That is classic recruitment marketing as well, in pitch decks of years gone by, where they just used to add up 100 people who've got 1 year's experience and say, we've got 100 years combined experience in accountancy recruitment. It's like, yeah,
absolutely. Welcome, guys. Take your seats. We're going to make a start in just a moment. Just waiting for the final few people to come in. Thanks everyone so far for joining. Really good to have you. Should be a good one.
To see a Spice Girl join in as well. It looks like in the
absolutely. Yeah. Hello, Mel C.
Sunny Southampton. It's actually sunny in Stockport as well for a change. Glenn, are you coming up here tomorrow?
Trains dependent. Yes, trains dependent.
Oh, Milton Keynes, home of the roundabout.
Many roundabouts, Kieran. Many roundabouts.
Yeah, talking about the experience or age thing. We had an interesting one last week. We had our latest employee who's joined Marmalade. I figured out that the age difference between me and him is bigger than the age difference between me and my dad.
Wow.
So it's the first time I was like, that's just mind-blowing.
Unbelievable. Crazy. Okay, let's make a start. We've got 57 minutes to run. We've got a lot of content to cover, so really keen to get on with things. So let's get into it. If you're okay with that, Kieran and Glenn, all good?
Yeah, let's go.
Perfect. So let's get into the webinar then. So obviously today's webinar is what are the top 5 challenges recruiters are set to face in 2023. And I think it's fair to say that there is a bit of a marketing slant on this. We want to help marketers figure out how to solve these challenges as you're set to face them into next year. Just moving into the introductions. So I'm Brett James here at Country Lead for the UK here at Leadoo. Only been here around 3 months now, so relatively new in the business of Leadoo. But Leadoo is a Nordic-born unicorn gathering massive pace in the UK, and recruitment industries is becoming ever more popular for Leadoo. We have a number of recruitment clients joining our tech, which is great to see, and it's probably, I would say, one of the most perfect industries for it. We have a mission to activate, convert, and understand your website visitors, and our true goal is to make a company's website its best performing sales channel. I've got extensive marketing experience, MarTech experience, and I've delved in the recruitment industry over the years selling to it. So delighted to be running this webinar today. If I could hand over to you, Glenn.
Yeah, great. Thanks everyone for joining. Yep, my name's Glenn, and for those of you who jumped on a little bit earlier, you would have heard that I've been in the recruitment marketing space for the best part of 2 decades now. Always as a marketer, up until then, probably about 4.5, 5 years ago, where I started doing some kind of consultancy work, marketing NED work, if you like, in terms of helping recruitment businesses frame their strategy, and also helping marketers within recruitment businesses kind of go on that career path. But over the past 7 months, I've been at Meet. They're a global life sciences business, 250 people across the US, UK, and in Germany. And as well as the marketing team here, as part of the role, what excited me to get a proper job once again was that I also take care of a lot of the data and insights. We've got a customer success team that we're building, and also a dedicated team around automation. I know that might make some people on the call very jealous that I have those resources, but hopefully with some of the stuff we can discuss today, it will might build a business case for some people watching to go and shout about getting those resources themselves to help them be better.
Perfect. Great to have you, Glenn. Thanks for joining us. Kieran, over to you.
Yeah, I'm Kieran. I'm currently working at a recruitment marketing agency called Marmalade Marketing. Not quite as old in recruitment marketing years as Glenn, but I am into the teenage years, so 14 years, predominantly working at recruitment agencies. 3 for the majority of that time, where I was at everything from marketing assistant right through to head of marketing. The 3 agencies were totally different, so multidiscipline, UK based, then oil, gas, energy, global based, and then back to IT and tech, multiple countries. So quite a breadth of experience. Latterly, or the last 3 years, working agency side, supporting other recruitment companies. So everything from outsourcing your entire recruitment strategy and tactical delivery to some consultancy level stuff where we work with owners, founders of agencies to implement marketing, or we offer support. So if you've got an established marketing team and you need a bit of extra help, or you just need content writing, whatever it may be, that's kind of what we do now. Like with Glenn and Brett, I think technology plays such an important role in this sector. And what we'll cover today is how people can get more from that and more from tech investments. So I just noticed someone had said, have we started yet? It concerned me a bit that people can't hear and see. So if anyone in the chat, just let us know that you can actually hear us, or this is going to be repeated.
Hopefully they can hear us. Lauren, can you just confirm that on the chat? Perfect. I think we can. Anyway, let's
cool.
we'll keep rolling. All good. Yeah, perfect. All good. Okay, cool. So just wanted to dive into a bit of context for the audience just before we get into the sort of breadth of the webinar. So we obviously know the steady growth in the recruitment sector during COVID-19, and we know that the industry obviously still faces some challenges. And I think it's safe to say that most business leaders are asking, when is the workplace going to truly get back to normal? And by that, they probably mean pre-2019. And I think we can all agree in this room now that it's probably never going to get back to that. But the pandemic obviously accelerated 3 workplace trends in particular. In my opinion, I think an employee's search for meaning, the desire for flexibility, and the pace of technological transformation. And I think it's the 3rd trend in particular that has enabled hybrid and virtual work, but is also fundamentally changing jobs and the skills required. And it's also led to a term that I'm sure that's resonating with you all, and you're hearing a lot more of it banded around the recruitment sector right now, and that's the great attrition. That's obviously the restlessness of the workforce with employee expectations going up. So what are companies doing? What are they thinking about this? Well, we think that they're examining how they recruit, develop, and retain talent. And I think Kieran and Glenn here today, I think we can all agree in this room that recruitment really needs to be smart in how they navigate this. And that's from adopting the latest technologies, as Kieran just mentioned, such as sales enablement tools, to embracing the flexible workforce. So we ask in this webinar, what 5 challenges is recruitment set to face in 2023? So we'll have a look at those challenges. You'll now see a poll for you to answer. It'd be great if you could get involved in that. Out of these challenges, which of these is a top priority for you? But these are the challenges we're going to walk through today. The shortage of quality candidates, a poor candidate experience, dated recruitment processes, avoiding bad hires, targeting those passive candidates, and a bonus challenge we might just spend a little bit more time on at the end, which is how big a role can your recruitment website play in solving these challenges? So if we go into challenge number one, shortage of quality candidates, we know that there's a sharp reduction right now, guys, of the number of new candidates looking for employment. There's so much uncertainty in the world. We've got cost of living crisis, which is contributing to all sorts of things. It's a very uncertain world right now, and that obviously has implications. Vacancies around for extended periods of time, increased efforts from recruiters risking burnout in businesses, and activating those qualified candidates has probably never been tougher. Glenn, if I could just come to you here, how truly big do you think this challenge is across the sector right now?
I think the key word which is in there is the attracting quality candidates. It's a little bit of a bugbear of mine saying, there's a candidate shortage, because obviously there is in some sectors, obviously with Brexit and immigration in some of those sectors in employment. But I think in general, when I think of probably a lot of people on this call and from the experience in the sectors that I'm familiar with, it's not as if, there's fewer Java developers or medical writers in my world or anything like that. They just need better convincing of opportunities. And I think, if there's quite a few marketers on this webinar, is that we have an important role to play in that, in terms of selling the opportunities. Because regardless, and I know these words are going to come up, but again, it's something I don't really like, the passive and active terminology, is that if you're able to present the right opportunity to the right person at the right time in the right way, everyone's going to be interested if it ticks the boxes. And we probably as marketers need to take a little bit of that responsibility on, because as we know, the vast majority, when you go down to a consultant level, is they're going in for the kill straight away. They're wondering what they want as a consultant, rather than selling the benefits of what a potential candidate wants. So, attracting quality candidates is the biggest challenge. Yeah. But look at yourself in that sense. This isn't. I don't think it's. I think there's too much emphasis potentially put on kind of external factors that we can't control in that attraction phase.
Yeah, makes sense. Perfect. And as we move into looking at how we could potentially fix this, obviously some of the thoughts that I gathered in a white paper that sort of supported this webinar was making your website candidate friendly, doing LinkedIn a bit differently. Can you gamify the approach? Can you activate that color, the candidate shortage a little bit more into more sales opportunities? And obviously building trust with the audience is big right now with those candidates, adding salaries to job descriptions, etc. Kieran, can I just come to you here? Do you think there's anything else here that we might have missed in terms of solutions?
I think those 3 points are really pertinent. I kind of couple it to what Glenn said. I don't think anything's really changed of late that makes these things more important. What I think with the most important factor against these is the one that's in the individual's recruiter's control, is building trust with your specific audience. I think we've seen over the years, it might be changing slightly, but there's a lot of recruitment agencies or recruitment businesses that kind of throttle that ability of people to do LinkedIn better. You can read all the advice in the world, but if your employer kind of reins in what you're able to do, either through lack of training or over policing what people do with their individual LinkedIn profile, I think that's the danger, really, that you're not empowering your people to go and do LinkedIn differently. They can still build trust with their audience because they're speaking to people on the phone all the time. Yeah. But as the individual recruiter, again, making your website candidate friendly, it's often something that's well outside of your control. The empowerment thing is really important, isn't it? I think not just on LinkedIn, but building your consultants up not to be order fillers. Yeah. You've got to encourage them to build a network of people. Otherwise, order filling is just, they've got a job, they try and fill that job. They burn a lot of candidates that way. So rather than keeping them in their network, they're giving people a one-time experience, and often it's bad. So empower that person to build their own network where, yeah, the role they're working on now might not be right for all of that network, but the one in 3 months' time might be.
Yeah, 100%.
I think, Brett, just one thing on the making your website candidate friendly as well. You know, we can talk about kind of UX, call to actions, and all that kind of thing. I think one of the things that we really need to pay more attention at the moment, because it's an absolute disgrace to a certain degree, is accessibility as well on websites. Is that you see lots of websites that are the most beautiful things in the world, but when you look at the kind of the stats around, you know, potential candidate pools, it was something I was at a conference yesterday, I picked up on it. Like it shocked me, is that out of all kind of the disabled workforce, if you like, including neurodiverse people, etc., like that, only 50% of them are employed, compared to 80% of abled people. I don't really like those terms. So, you know, I think we have a responsibility there to, you know, really boost the accessibility of what we're doing. And that's not just the websites, you know, that's including alt tags on social media posts and everything like that. So I think it's something that we probably need to pay more attention to, more than just a tick box exercise, which we might have looked at in the past. I've certainly probably been guilty of that in the past.
Yeah, that is really interesting, thinking about like the throwback to 10 years, 15 years ago, where an alt tag, we look at it like an SEO factor, make sure all your images have got alt tags. Well, actually, the alt tag's there to tell someone who's visually impaired what that image is depicting. So, yeah.
And if that's a job opportunity, and we're talking about candidate shortages as things, is you want to make your pool as diverse and as big as possible, don't we? So.
Yeah, no, really important. Great points. Well made there, guys. So moving on to the next challenge. Obviously, like I said, got a lot to get through. The next one, obviously, is the poor candidate experience. Sorry, I just went a bit too fast with the slides there. Obviously, we've all been on the end of a poor candidate experience. I think we can all say that probably in this room right now. And I think that to say it's more important than ever is probably not true, because it's something that we hear that on a daily basis. It's super important, isn't it, guys? And I think there's a stat out there that 78% of candidates say that the overall candidate experience they receive is obviously an indicator of how a company values its people. And if we look at how we can probably solve the poor candidate experience, the couple of points I've put here is proactive communication. I think, what can you automate from a communication perspective during that candidate experience? What are you as recruiters, as marketers, looking at to really have a customer-centric, seamless experience from an automation perspective? I'm sure Glenn and Kieran can touch upon that in a second, but also making it so much easier for people to apply. I think that's really important as well. How slick is the process to apply and get into feed those candidates into your candidate pool? Kieran, if I come to you here, do you think there's a most like neglected solution here? What's your opinion on this? I think
what's neglected is the ability to join those two things together. So I look at the experience is split. It's a bit marketing jargon in a way, but touch points, right? So your recruitment company, primary touch points would be human to human contact, or human to your website, or something digital. Some companies are very good at the human to human side, training their recruiters to provide a great experience. Some are pretty good at working with technical website development companies and marketers to make that digital experience really easy, seamless, as you've described. The challenge for me is looking at both with equal value. If I have a great phone call with someone, they mention a few things, send me an email, and then I click through their email and visit their website, and that is akin to Windows 95. I don't know where I'm going to get what. The job search doesn't function.
Yeah,
some of that good value and feel good factor of the phone call is diminished. I'm like, oh God, are these as good as the guy sounded on the phone? Equally in reverse, people can visit the website and it can be well invested. As Glenn pointed out, important for attracting a diverse range of candidates. But then you pick up the phone to someone, or someone gives you a call, and you get horrendous kind of one-dimensional conversation. So for me, the biggest challenge is if you're going to approach experience, look at it from that customer first. Where are the different places they're going to experience before focusing on one specific part of it?
Yeah, makes sense. Glenn, have you got anything to add in particular on these solutions?
Yeah, I think the reason candidate experience comes up as the biggest challenge year on year for as long as I've been around is that it's very personal to individuals. A bad candidate experience for one person is different from a bad candidate experience for another person, because they potentially value different things. We're humans, we have different values. If I go, some people will go to a restaurant and they'll be completely focused on the quality of food and couldn't care less about the service they get. But equally, someone could walk behind me and it could be completely the different way around. So I think what happens a lot in recruitment businesses when it comes to building out candidate experiences and journeys is that we assume what candidates want, and we don't do enough of going out and actually asking our candidates. And I think the biggest thing, and there's no excuse for it now with the technology that's available, I'm sure we'll come on to it, is choice. Is give candidates the choice and the accessibility to engage with you how they want to engage with you, not how you want them to engage with you for your own purposes. And that's a big shift to happen in the majority of recruitment businesses. But it feels like as entrepreneurial industry we are, with things like that, we're a little bit behind compared to maybe some of the more traditional B2C markets, where you could easily choose how you interact with brands, products, services. So
I definitely agree there, guys. I do think recruitment's come a long way though in a very short space of time. So it's great to see that. That probably leads us nicely into our next challenge then. So data recruitment processes is obviously quite a pertinent topic as well, I guess. And just to touch on this, that data recruitment processes are definitely costing the industry some serious time and money. So really getting your game into order from that perspective is very, very important. And I think the days of endless sourcing and shortlisting candidates, reviewing CVs, scheduling and conducting interviews are probably coming to a close right now. But that's only due, because if you get the processes right and the right technology to support it. There's some implications there around poor candidate experience that we've already touched upon, time wasted on things that could have been automated, and obviously lost opportunities, as well as candidates abandoning the process in favour of potential competitors. So, Glenn, with this one in mind, and given you're very close to this sort of stuff in both angles of your work, do you think recruitment is starting to embrace more technology?
They're starting to embrace it a lot better and onboard it and spend a lot of money on it. But the fact that candidate experience and things like that stats are still there, that suggests to me that the execution is falling down at some point. And to be honest, I think a lot of that is down to resource and time spent in getting it right. I mentioned at the beginning, I'm very fortunate to have someone who I can rely on for 45 hours a week, 39 hours a week to kind of dedicate on looking at it. That is literally the job to do it. And it's a salary, but it pays off if you execute it right. And I'll let Kieran come in here as well. And I think there's a lot of kind of trying to keeping up with the Joneses with technology and recruitment is like, competitor X down the road's got it. Oh, it must be good. We go and get it. And it probably is not fitting into any wider strategy, like what the business is trying to achieve. Is that what you probably see, Kieran, from the agency side?
There's more noise around tech stacks, whether it's the marketing tech or the incumbent tech, CRM systems and stuff. So recruitment leaders, I say this quite flippantly, but I've posted about it on LinkedIn a couple of times. I just describe them as magpies when it comes to tech. And this is no offense meant to Leadoo and products like that, people get attracted to these things because of the potential they offer. But the biggest error or mistake I see is buying the tech and not thinking about who's going to drive it. It doesn't just automatically slot into everything you do. And after onboarding, there's a lot of tech suppliers out there that just hand you the keys. They have a support ticket system, but actual thought process, strategy, and how to utilize that piece of kit for your use case and your need often comes later, and often too late, where you've gone, we've subscribed to this thing for 12 months now. We've got nothing from it. And it's not the tech's fault. It's the fact that they've not dedicated, like Glenn touched on it, resource. You've got to resource it. And just come back, no plug here, but there are tech providers that provide that hands-on approach rather than just, here's the keys, go for your lives.
Yeah, no, really good point there, Kieran. It's got to be a two-pronged approach, hasn't it? It's got to be a partnership. You know, you've got to have some dedication from the recruitment side of it, and obviously dedication from the tech partner. So, you know, I think that's really important points made there, both of you there. In terms of how can we fix those data recruitment process? I mean, we could obviously talk about this all day long. A couple of things I've noted here is update your know-how on the latest recruitment trends, not just the trends, the technology out there. Glenn, you just mentioned how much choice there is. But I would say recommend, you know, go and speak to fellow people in the industry and see what really is working out there for them. And obviously make yourself familiar with the different rising, in particular, recruitment technologies rather than the broad sort of technology offerings. Guys, from your perspective, I guess, Glenn, I'll come to you here. Do you think there's anything else we've potentially missed?
No, I think you need to say what you're trying to achieve first with any tech. What impact is it going to have on the wider business, whether from a revenue generation point of view, whether from a data integrity point of view, does it fit into repeat business strategy? And I think as marketers, we need to ask those questions as well. But you know what you said, Brett, as well. And I think you know, not to kind of plug the lonely marketers or anything, but this industry, I feel certainly from the marketing point of view, and I think wider recruitment business leaders, you know, post pandemic, everyone is a lot more willing to share now. When I did start many years ago, you know, it was frowned upon. It was, if I went to a networking event, I was kind of told, you know, don't talk about what we're doing here and here. Like we had some kind of like golden egg that was, you know, the recruitment Bible that no one else had access to. I think nowadays is that people are willing to share experiences and knowledge, and that's a good thing. Yeah. Because it keeps the tech providers on their toes. They can't get there. There's no hiding place anymore because they know their customers and their potential customers are all talking honestly. You know, whether you want to call it the dark web or whatever, it's happening. So, you know, if you are thinking about stuff, just put yourself out there, message on LinkedIn, you know, message individuals. You'll be amazed how willing people are to offer insight.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I will plug the Lowly Marketers, Glenn, because I signed up to the newsletter a few years ago, not even obviously working recruitment, and I still enjoy reading it every week to this day. So I will plug you if that's okay.
Yeah. There's an episode with Kieran floating around somewhere back in the archives as well, if people want to find it.
Yeah, let's find out my favourite swear word. which I won't say on this podcast.
Yeah, let's not go down that route. Old Lancashire swear words. Okay, moving on, guys. Thanks for your input on that particular challenge. So if we move on to avoiding bad hires again, obviously I know popular thing that the recruitment industry has always seen, and I think that, you know, given that's always been a challenge. My question to you guys really would be, a rhetorical question would be, do you think, given the sort of current climate out there, has it ever been as tough or more competitive in terms of avoiding those bad hires, finding the quality candidates, with so many people reluctant to perhaps maybe look at new opportunities? Avoiding bad hires is obviously is quite a big one. And I think there's obviously implications there around lost productivity as new staff don't fit the role. If you do get a bad hire, low staff morale, monetary costs, loss of business confidence. The obviously the list goes on. From Kieran, from what you've seen this year from a bad hire perspective, has anything changed in the current climate? Do you feel is there anything that you could shed light on there?
I think a lot of what the points we're talking about here are almost projecting into the future, which is great for people to hear and pick up on that advice. Unfortunately, I think one of the challenges with this one is that economic climate and that real peak and trough we've been going through. So some of this advice might be a bit too late, but I reckon there's a bit of a shock coming to a lot of employers that have hired hand over fist over the last 12 months. And they will, not by design, but they will have hired a lot of square pegs for round holes, often inflated salaries. And that's going to create a problem I think we've not seen in the past at the scale we possibly will. Shortage of candidates drove it, but we all heard of some of the salaries that were going around in our own industries that even took us by surprise. So I don't really know what we can do about that for this wave of people that are in the workforce now that might be above their pay grade, getting paid too much for the responsibility as things dry up a bit in different industries. The point still stands, though, doesn't it, about bad hires? Don't be forced into hiring if you don't think it's the right fit, because it's just short-term solutions and won't last the test of time for you as an organisation. I can't tell you how to avoid it, unfortunately, but putting more thought into it.
100%. Sorry, guys.
I think with bad hires as well, there's a part of me is like, you know, the bad hires are on you as an organisation. Ultimately, you know, you can't blame the person for joining you, and they haven't forced you, like Kieran said, to pay them the money you've hired, and they didn't force you to make an offer after they answered a interview question the one way, or after reviewing their LinkedIn profile and everything. And I think, you know, I'm sure we'll come on to kind of how to potentially fix this, and considering the audience is we're in a world now, especially with the workforce that is coming kind of into the marketplace at the moment, is if you're looking to hire for your own recruitment businesses or on behalf of your clients, which we're increasingly seeing more recruitment kind of businesses doing, is you've got to get your employer branding right. And when I say your employer branding right, I mean you've got to get it transparent. It can't be all shiny and fluffy. I think the reason why in a lot of cases we've got such bad retention in the recruitment industry is there's a huge disconnect between the promises made prior to someone joining a business and then the reality of when they come onto a sales floor or from working from home.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think employee branding will be something we touch upon towards the end. I think that's a really important point. I think when we look at the different types of solutions, there's obviously some that we've gathered here. You know, being more thorough when defining the skills required for the position, challenging the recruiting supervisor. Is it something is this hire something really that the company really needs? Focusing on obviously that culture fit, which is massive. You know, culture fit is huge. Do they fit the culture, and vice versa? And asking the final candidates maybe to execute a few tasks before potentially moving into the role. Can you get them engaged in a quick test to make sure that they are a true fit for the role? Kieran, if I just come back to you here, any particular solution here that you think is important, or actually, you know, anything that you think we've actually missed here that we could discuss?
The culture thing, I'd avoid culture fit. I think it breeds one-dimensional hiring. If you want people, I've worked for a company in the past where it was mentioned all the time, are they the X fit? They're not the X fit. And I think times have moved on, and the amount of recruitment companies and employers that the recruiters support that want people to fit in, it's not the right approach, and it doesn't balance well with the push to build more diverse workforces. So my view on it is, again, it might be a bit of a cliche, but culture add. Like, what value is that person going to add to our culture? So yes, our culture is good. But if we keep hiring clones of me, it's just going to be like a working men's club in Lancashire, isn't it? So what we want is a bit more input from different schools of thought, people from different backgrounds. So look at what your current culture is, and when you're interviewing people, don't think, will they fit in? Think, will they add value?
Yeah, no, great point on that, Kieran. And in terms of that culture, I'd love that take on it. I think that's probably the modernized way to look at it. So definitely fitting. Glenn, from your perspective, obviously you've touched on employer branding. Anything else you think that recruiters are probably maybe missing here that they could add to the ammunition, if you like, to help solve this problem?
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of looking beyond a CV and stuff. It's obviously it's very dependent based on the role and things, but I think that general interview processes need kind of radicalizing. Certainly from my point of view, I think they're far too much one way. My approach to interviewing, I very rarely take. I'll review a CV, but I'll very rarely take it in there because I want to give whoever I'm speaking to the chance to interview me and see whether they want to work, with me in this team as much as anything. I think you gain a lot more by creating that safe space and like that, giving people the permission to ask those questions of you. You'll get a lot more insight around those questions than you saying, "Oh, can you talk me through your CV?" And what's the point in that? You should have looked at the CV. You're interviewing them. You should already know that there's no interest in there. So I think probably that interviewing is important. I think probably as recruitment businesses where we're talking and we should be challenging our clients a lot more, we probably have a responsibility because of the access we have to go on a little bit of education process with our clients on that point as well.
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah, totally agreed on that. Anything from a marketing standpoint, anything else from a marketing standpoint you think could help with avoiding those bad hires? Something, not to plug Leadoo too much, obviously this might be the first time we've ever done it, but something we do is obviously activate candidates through the website by gamifying the approach a little bit, getting them into a conversation and seeing if they're the right fit pretty quickly through a bit of a hyper-personalized chatbot. Anything else, guys, you've seen in the industry that you think that might help with that? Just on that note,
it's all one but job ads. Like, just make sure your job advert is an advert for the role. And what I mean by an advert, entice people in, but be honest about what it is and what it's not. I think we've said it before, the interview process can arguably do this as well, where carrots are dangled that don't exist. I've experienced that before, where I was interviewed in a palatial suite of meeting rooms, and then on the first day I was on the third floor that hadn't been decorated for what felt like 70 years, and I was like, hang on, this isn't what I was sold here. And adverts can do that too. It's not about overselling. It's just about being honest, isn't it? And saying this is the role, this is what you will be doing, this is what you won't be doing. I think when it comes to marketing, there's an age-old thing with recruitment, and it's that almost tug of war between precious marketers like myself saying it's an advert, it's not a job description, and recruiters being forced to be or encouraged to be first to the punch, get that advert out before your competitor does. You're missing an opportunity by rushing it.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Perfect. Okay, moving on. We're 21 minutes to go, so we're doing pretty well for time. I think we're tracking well, so that's good. In terms of the next challenge, targeting passive candidates, I'm sure this is quite a juicy one for the audience to sort of look into. We know that the bulk of the market appears to be passive. I think it's around 70%. But I think according to LinkedIn, 90% of passive candidates are actually still interested in hearing about new opportunities. So just on that, guys, do you think there is a bigger challenge out there right now, given how competitive the market is? Glenn, if I could come to you with that question.
I actually think this is quite easy, to be honest. it's easy, but it's very uncommon because of the industry that we work in, where so much is based on a weekly, monthly basis, targets, KPIs. And I haven't got a problem with KPIs. You know, when sometimes when you say KPIs, I just think this is recruitment. People automatically go to, why aren't you spending 5 hours on the phone? There's nothing wrong with key performance indicators if they're the right key performance indicators. But I think in terms of targeting passive candidates, and I mentioned it earlier, is, do you know what? We always, everyone on this panel, everyone tuning in, I'm certain that every single day they are getting 10, 20, 30 emails from different companies. Yeah. We don't unsubscribe to them all because we still keep getting them. So they're not that offensive. We accept them. I think as marketers, we should be creating enough interesting content and adding value to be able to do that regularly with no other reason than giving them that value. Not with a massive call to action at the bottom saying, oh, we haven't spoken to you in 2 months, send us your CV. Just keep sending the messages. I think, not to plug the newsletter, but it's something that I read about, is that it's the rule of 3, and especially even more certain in where we're potentially going into this, a little bit of a downturn, is that everyone knows the top 3 brands, in whatever sector you go to. It's probably similar in recruitment, not to say the names. If you go Adecco, Michael Page Hayes, everyone knows them. And if you were looking for a job and you were desperate for a job, you probably go to them. But what your aim needs to be as marketers is to be in the next 7. It's like, as and when that happens, is for something to trigger your memory, even if it's like, oh, they're the guys who just send me all the content all the time. I might not have read it all the time, and that's fine. And don't get offended as a marketer about that. But that is fine to do that. And I think we need to start thinking a little bit more like that, and not be kind of put off by, rubbish click-through rates or anything. If not unsubscribing, it's hitting people's eyes, that's fine. And if you're, as a marketer, doing it from a good place of looking to add value rather than demanding information, I think that's the route to go down. I know Kieran shares the opinion of giving stuff away rather than always trying to get data and insight and everything from people on that sense as well.
Yeah, 100%. Kieran, it's probably a good one for you to comment on, given the fact that you've got a range of clients out there at Marmalade Marketing. Anything that you could add from that perspective?
Yeah, as Glenn said, it's kind of my school of thought that you can't measure the sentiment in someone's head from what they've seen on LinkedIn, what they've seen in their inbox from you. So rather than get too obsessed with gleaning positive metrics, have a look and ensure you're not getting too many negative metrics. So like Glenn said, unsubscribes. If you're getting tons of them, you're not sending people the right content. And we see it time and again. If a client really pushes us to communicate too much about them, too much about the jobs that they're working on, they get much poorer response rate short term, i.e. lots of negative indicators coming back, than the ones that might not get loads of positive numbers. And I'm not going to quantify them or classify them all as vanity metrics, because I don't believe in that either. But it's about being patient. If people aren't unsubscribing in droves, think about the content you're sending to them. Well, it might not always be call to action stuff. It's not demanding something right now. But in their head, you're chipping away and you're placing yourselves closer and closer to front of mind, above your known brands in your niche. I've certainly, you notice it yourself in your own inbox, you know what you switch off from. And sometimes the best ones are the ones where you've read it for a while and you, if asked, couldn't actually tell you what the company does. They just put valuable content in front of me and I'm familiar with the brand. And then eventually the penny will drop. I think, oh yeah, I've got a bit of an affinity to them and I do need that kind of thing right now. Yeah, it's the 95% thing, and I use it all the time. I don't know how true it is, but 95% of your market isn't looking to buy right now. There's no harm in being in their inbox every week, though.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely keep front of mind. That's the key, definitely. And when we look at the solutions around this, there's obviously probably many, and I don't really want to labour on this too much, so I want to move on to the final part of the webinar. But obviously, resourcing projects that are targeting passive candidates with more time and tools we've already mentioned in the webinar, and making sure those processes are equipped. Obviously, might be repeating ourselves a little bit, but obviously, processes are key in making sure we are attracting the right passive candidates. Glenn, from your perspective, anything else you think we've missed, or do you think there's a solution here that's probably more neglected than the other?
No, I think what Kieran said is patience. That's what you've kind of got to feed through. Feed through the business, and for the marketers watching and listening, is I always, if you're trying to push this to a sales perspective, for example, is that if they're hiring kind of grad or new consultants, those people who are coming in, they're not expected to do a deal in week one. They're going through maybe a 12-week training plan. They're being shadowed by people. They're being offered daily support, and then the results come after time. So if you can kind of relate any marketing activity, marketing strategies, ideas to that kind of process, I think that gets you the buy-in. But also be 100% prepared for it to fail after 3 months. You know, if you haven't set out what you want it to do and it doesn't get the results, that's fine as well, because that's something that we're wrong. We get wrong from a marketing point of view in the industry as well, is we just continue. It's, you know, what is it? Einstein's definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over again and expecting different results. It doesn't happen. So fail fast and try new things.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't get it wrong, you don't learn, right? So 100% resonate with that, Glenn. So moving on, last 13 minutes of the webinar, guys. I think this is a really important sort of topic to cover. I think there's a poll question again. Do you think your website could play a bigger role for generating more opportunities in 2023? So please do get involved in that. But Glenn, Kieran, I'm sure you can agree that you know, a recruitment website, is that rising? Is it about to play a much bigger role than it's played ever before? You know, we know that it can help to sell the company culture, what it's all about, its values, building that brand that you mentioned, Glenn, so rightly earlier on in the webinar, engaging more candidates, starting to learn about your traffic, your web visitors, your buyers' journeys, and helping to build candidate pools and owning your own data rather than the job boards owning it. So, question to you both. First, Kieran, if I start with you, and it's a pretty broad question, but I think you'll be able to answer it perfectly. How big a role do you think a recruitment website is about to play as we move forward into 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, it's for me, it's always been pivotal, centerpiece, and you know, that is the hub you want to pull people towards, whether you're a recruitment agency or you're building a career site for yourself as an employer. It should be the centerpiece. I think the technologies have advanced a lot, both the platforms, website platforms, but then again, no plug intended, the things you can then utilize as a layer above that technology to streamline certain aspects of it. It has to play that pivotal role we've just talked about how frequent you can be in someone's inbox or social media feed when they're not ready to buy. But at the moment they are ready to buy, if they come to your website and it's a crappy experience, then that's going to really devastate the impact of all that long-term play that you've put in place. It's suddenly going to fall off a cliff, isn't it? Because they get there and, you know, you last invested in your website 5-6 years ago. You've not moved with trends and technology, but more so than trends and technology, the customer's expectation. We all use Amazon. We all use these websites that get billions invested in user experience. It sets our expectations high. Yeah,
100%. And Glenn, what about you? How big a role do you think a recruitment website is now about to play?
should play is probably the will. I think, I think probably over time, it's always ended up being quite siloed. I think the important thing to remember is that your website can well be the centerpiece, like Kieran said, but to get the most effectiveness out of it, you've got to be like spider out the side of it. Your email marketing's got to be on point. Your social media has to be on point. You know, you have to get your tracking links on point. You might need to invest in SEO, increasingly more on Google. You might have to look at PPC to do stuff as well. I think that, and again, and this is just my personal view, and I've done too many stressful nights with website projects over the years, is that going back to the theme that we've said around patience and obsession around measuring an ROI, which of course there's a place to play, is that we tend to default with websites completely in terms of the job board aspect of it. But because it's easy to measure applications and CVs coming into a website. But I think you end up missing a trick in that sense, because if you think about all the things we've spoken about, poor job adverts, etc., you're probably only going to get 20% of your target market to your website via the job boards. And equally, you're probably spending thousands of pounds on actual specialized job boards who you're never going to compete with anyway. So my view is you need to make your website, depending on what sector it is a destination for your audience. So it might be for jobs at some point, but it also might be for salary insights. It might be for interviews with potential peers, that people have a reason to come back to your website other than just having jobs. And again, it's a longer term play, but longer term benefits is what I'd feel in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just tagging on to what you both said there, I think from our perspective at Leadoo, we've done a lot of work, a lot of research. I think if you're sending people to that destination and using it as a destination, like you've rightly said there, Glenn, I think it's so important to have a helping hand once that visitor gets to the website to guide them down the buyer's journey. We know there's 4 pillars of the buying journey. The first one is obviously awareness, moving into interested stage. It's about getting them from those top 2 stages to the next 2 stages in their right time and with patience, and delivering the right message at the right time. So I think that's pretty important to mention.
I think something on that, Brett. I think, and a lot of people maybe kind of in the conversation might feel a bit seen here. And I'm thinking about the Meet website now. I might be calling myself out a little bit. Is you go on so many recruitment websites and it's big call to action, looking to hire, looking for a new role. Yeah. And you talk about those journeys. Why do very few people have like, oh, I'm doing neither at the moment? And that takes it onto a nurturing journey around content and insight. It's going to be a little bit different. But that's your nurturing that can go on that ongoing basis as well. And I think we try to get to the end goal, far too quickly sometimes, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed. Kieran, any views on this one from your perspective, from looking at your website? I know you've got a few points on this, and you posted recently on this anyway on LinkedIn.
Yeah, my post was more, where is it in the pecking order of a marketer? So if you're a marketer within a recruitment business, or again, you market an employer brand, I think the website has fallen off the top of the pecking order in recent years because of the prevalence of terms like content marketing and how much social media is having an impact. It's not to say people haven't invested, but they've not focused on making sure it's continually sort of optimized. I think it's the easiest way to say it. If a new technology comes along that, I won't name names, but pre-populates some of the fields you're having to fill in, that's a bonus, isn't it? We know we don't like filling in forms, so our data tends to be on databases. If I land on a website and it's pre-populated a lot of the form for me, then that's a step forward in terms of the user journey and experience. It makes things quicker. The biggest tip for me is it doesn't have to be boom or bust. You might have a decent platform. It could be WordPress. It could be a specialist system. You can look at two things. The content is critical. It's this might come across wrong, but if there's too many we's on your website, that's a big problem. So if you go to your website right now and paragraphs begin with we and where, then that's an issue for me. It needs to be more about you. It needs to be the audience. No audience really cares about what you do, as in we do this, we service these sectors, we've got this much experience. The person reading wants to hear about what you're going to do for them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally agree, Kieran. I think that, you know, what you've said there is definitely will definitely hit the note with a lot of people in the webinar. 5 minutes left. We've got a bit of time for some questions. I think we've got one here from Alexis, Kieran or Glenn. I don't know who wants to take this. I can read it out. We've spoken a lot about digital approaches. What about in the wild, like pressing the flesh, ATL marketing, guerrilla, etc.? Glenn, Kieran, who wants to take that one?
100% got a place. It takes me back. I used to do so much stuff around, you know, proper mail shots kind of in the post, and got really creative with it. I think as marketers generally, I think we've potentially lost a little bit of that creativity, especially in recruitment. Like Alexis says there, it's a very digital focus, and you know, we have been guilty of that in this webinar, but I 100% think there's a place for it, especially nowadays. It breaks through the noise. People aren't used to, you know, getting something innovative in the post, or, you know, seeing something on the street. When you look at, you know, some brands outside of our sector, the Thursdays of this world. I don't want to say this because I don't really like them or him, but the brew dogs and things, that approach of cutting through the noise definitely has a place, but we've got to either give ourselves permission to do it. And you know, my great mantra and stuff like that is ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So, you know, if you can give it a go, especially stuff like guerrilla marketing, the very nature of it shouldn't cost any money. Give it a go, see what happens.
Yeah, you've got to be really brave. But yeah, it's certainly got a place. The digital thing, it's because it's measurable. So we've forced ourselves down everything being digital because it's measurable. Or we can't measure that billboard ad. Yeah. So it's a lot of money. There's a great recent case study from, I'm sure some of you are familiar with Offended, a marketing agency in Manchester, and it ties perfectly with recruitment. They ran their own recruitment marketing campaign using just that. Poster like fly posts, essentially, along all the boarded up buildings where you would see concert adverts, and they put a campaign together that got a lot of publicity and press, looking to hire PR people and content people for their own agency. So just Google that and have a look at what they did. It's a great example of how traditional methods actually sparked a load of chat on social media, and I'm sure they were inundated with applications for those jobs. It's a niche agency. It's going to take a certain type of person to work there, but their approach to attracting that type of person was spot on, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, great question as well from Alexis. Thank you. I don't think there's any more questions. Might just give you a couple of seconds if there is. I think there's a poll coming at you. If you'd like a free website audit ahead of the challenges you might face in 2023, we can help with that. There is another question from David B. Let's get that in. Thanks, David. Will the changes in Google Analytics to Universal Analytics next year make it harder to understand the user journey and experience on websites and key digital metrics like we've discussed today? Glenn, do you want to go for that?
God knows. I don't know. I think I've refused to switch it over yet. I would say, rather than trying to second guess anything like that, if there's, you know, if that's a key part of your measurement and to understand it's really worth investing in a course, or, you know, potentially someone like Kieran and the agency to help you with it rather than understand it. The problem is, a lot of the time with Google, whether it's their analytics platforms, their algorithms, you just don't know a lot of the time. You know, things change on a whim. But I think with their actual platform, I I think it is going to be harder, but ultimately that's harder in my mind. This is a personal thing, is that it's the sacrifice of that is that we're protecting people's personal kind of information. It's harder to track people's behavior because they don't want to be tracked in certain instances. So, you know, it kind of, it is what it is. And I think we're going to have to just deal with it.
Yeah, great question, David. Finally from you, Kieran, anything else to add on that before we wrap?
I don't think it makes it harder. I think learning the new Google Analytics or Google Analytics 4 is the challenge. So people I'm working with that didn't know Universal Analytics and go straight to Google Analytics 4, they don't seem to have a problem with it. It's people that are ingrained with the old way. So like Glenn said, invest a bit of time in actually getting your head around it. And it won't make it harder. It will make some things easier.
Perfect. Yeah, great answer. Okay, guys, I think that's a wrap. I just want to thank everyone who has attended today. The recording will be coming to you in an email after. We've also got a white paper coming to you later down the line as well. So that's a good read for next year. But Glenn, Kieran, thanks so much for joining, being on the panel. Really appreciate it. Guys, the contact details are on the slide. I'll leave them on for a couple of minutes. You can see there if you want to contact us, you can do. But thanks for all for joining. Hope you've enjoyed it. See you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.